Welcome to the TWC Afterthoughts, and today I have the pleasure of bringing my wife along for the ride. So how you doing, sweetheart?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great.
Good.
It's very fun to be here with you. I'm excited about... There's one.
I know.
All right.
I'm sorry.
She gets the giggles, and that's all right. It's one of the reasons why I married her, because she makes me feel like I'm actually funny, and I know I'm not, but, as I always say, find you a Brindley.
There you go.
Yeah. So today we want to talk about marriage, and biblical marriage, I think, is a good place to start. Why our marriage is so amazing. We have always just had a really good marriage, and I want to be able to express and talk about that with people in a way that might help them, because we've been married for 10 years now. Just had our third child together. He's 2 months and a week and a couple days and a few hours and minutes and all that fun stuff. What's that song? 924 something minutes. Yeah. You know that one better than I do. For Rent. I've never seen that movie.
Me either.
Was it a Broadway musical first?
I think so.
Gross. All right.
That's why we haven't seen it.
I've never been to the big city. So, I thought we could just talk about a few things of that nature, and, we'll get into some biblical principles. We'll go through Ephesians 5 together and kind of discuss our thoughts on that and how we relate that through our marriage. I think it kind of comes naturally just from our upbringing, but, we can kind of extinguish or extract.
Okay,
we don't want to extinguish this. No, we're building the fire. Yes, we are building the fire. But we kind of extract what we think.
Sorry.
I knew you would do that. Been waiting on it. But yeah, I thought that'd be good. But let's start off with prayer.
Okay.
And then we'll just get into a few things and see where the Lord leads us. All right?
Sounds good.
Father, thank you so much, and just pray that, whoever might be listening to this today, if they need help in their marriage or some encouragement, and I just pray that we can give them some biblical values here that show them that marriage is really an enjoyable experience. It's a great experience as far as I'm concerned, and I believe that if it be your will that somebody come together with their partner for the rest of eternity, just let us do that with a peaceful mindset, God. I pray that people have a marriage like I have. I think that's kind of a rare thing that people say, but, I really am happily married, and just so thankful that you provided my wife to me, God. And we know that all good things are from you. So, Lord, if we are in marriage, looking to get married, wherever we are in our stages of life, I just pray that we seek your will in that opportunity, God, because this is the most important thing, aside from salvation, that we will ever decide on in our human lives here. So we just thank you for blessing our marriage. We thank you for blessing those that are listening and blessing those that are looking for marriage, God. And it's in your name that we do pray. Amen. What's your favorite movie? Don't say anything with Danny Kaye.
Well, that's difficult. I don't know. There's a lot to choose from. Declan asks me that all the time, and I don't know what to say. Because then I like a lot of movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
You ask me what my favorite movie,
What's
Braveheart.
Yeah, I don't know.
You want to ask? Go ahead, ask me why.
Why?
Because I'm so glad you asked, by the way. Thank you.
First question that popped in my mind.
He goes to war because of love. I mean, they took his wife from him, did all sorts of bad things, and that man went and just destroyed England. I mean, they ended up killing him, of course, but William Wallace didn't go out without a fight. No. And to me,
all I wear in a skirt.
It's not a skirt; it's a kilt. Okay, that was a bad Scottish accent. But I think that to some people, marriage is a battle, and I think with you and me, it's like a battle that we do together, not against each other.
For sure.
And I really appreciate that because, like in our line of work, you actually have just been able to step away from your full-time job. I'm still working a full-time job plus doing the church. But we are we're battling together. We're battling bigger issues than us.
Right.
And I don't think this church would work. I don't think ministry would work if you and I were at each other's throats all the time.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, I mean, we're not supposed to go through life trying to beat each other up. It's supposed to be a partnership that we, are able to move forward together. And that just doesn't sound like a happy anything, trying to fight the person that's supposed to be,
the one you love the most.
one you love the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
The
you
one
happy,
you're supposed to
the
care
one that-
for.
Yeah.
So why don't we fight? Because we really don't. And
don't.
that's
We
a rare
could.
thing. We could, sure.
I think we both choose not to. Like, I choose, like any woman, there's things that, like, I want to, like, close the cabinets when you're in the kitchen.
If your friend Emily listens to this, she's just going to be belly rolling on the floor.
Yeah.
The one time she heard me preach about that, every time I see her after, she's like, close the cabinets, John. I'm like, no.
But, I mean, there's just, like, those little things. We could nitpick about anything.
Mhm.
But I really choose and make an effort not to be, like, a nagging person.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody, you are the way you are, and that's okay. If I want the cabinets closed, I'll go close them.
You are the way you are. And there's a lot of merit in what you're saying there, because like after the age of 25, you're kind of like learning a new skill, or I don't know, it's more difficult for the brain, especially I think for men. But you're right. I kind of am who I am. Yeah. And that's what the whole dating portion is about. Like you want to figure out, who is this person? Right. And I taught a sermon the other day, and we were talking about marriage, and God bless one of our people that was here. It was the first time her boyfriend came in with her, and I'm sitting there like, you shouldn't be having sex before marriage. You need to make sure you're not fighting. You need to make sure you're aligned and, properly and equally yoked. But seriously, it's like, that's what you want to do, because like having marriages for 10 years, 20, 30, and 40 years is becoming less and less common. And this isn't a condemnation on divorce. I mean, things happen, and by all means, I've got plenty of things I do wrong, and apparently cabinets is one of them, but
just the one that stands out at the moment.
It's the one that stands out. It's the one we always go to. But, I agree with you. It's like, don't sweat the small stuff, because there are bigger things in our life, children being one of them. Right. We absolutely want to show our children that fighting doesn't accomplish anything inside of the marriage covenant. Correct. I mean, you, myself, we have gone before the Lord and said, we're committing our bodies and our soul unto you in all things. And our character is like what we do behind closed doors, right? That's really who we are. Right. And with that, it's like we really do enjoy ourselves. It is a happy home. It's a lifestyle. Like, we have 3 really good kids. They make mistakes, and they're they need correction too. But do you remember that time we were at Walmart, and the lady just she came out of nowhere, and she stops us, and she's like, I just want to tell you all, you are just the best couple. It's like, I wish I could come to Walmart and have fun like you all. And I'm like, okay. Yeah.
I was like, you want your husband to punch the cereal into the buggy? Go for it.
Is that what I did?
Yeah, you were punching the cereal. You're picking it up and punching it into the
Lucky Charms? Yeah. Well, you're laughing then, you're laughing now. So if you would stop laughing, I wouldn't do these silly things, But going to what you were talking about just a second ago, of like, you are who you are. So in my field of study, I'm a temperament therapist, and it's it's basically Christian psychology, right? It's the way that we identify who we are and who God has made us to be, and our temperaments, they blend really quite nicely. Now temperament, of course, it goes into secular psychology as well, but through what I've done, there's 5 different temperaments, and it just so happens that mine and yours works very, very well together. And in that capacity, like, I'm more of a decision maker and more of a driver, and I need control. What would you describe yourself as in those areas?
As in, like, needing control? With our marriage, I don't really want it. I want you to be the leader. Can I be a leader? Yes, but I don't really necessarily desire that. Right. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, it's not a natural craving, natural desire position. Yeah. Yeah. Which, knowing you and knowing me, like, your temperament is that. Your temperament is very much one that wants to serve, wants to just go along, but if I ask you to do something, you'll do it. You won't hesitate. In fact, if I ask you to do things, you very rarely tell me no. And that's kind of, I don't want to be here. But I remember we were talking about that a couple weeks ago during the service, and it's like, my wife very rarely tells me no. And for my temperament, like, that is such a influence of like just calmness. Like, you hear me, and even if you don't do what I'm asking, you don't argue with me. It's like, okay, he just needs to vent it. He's got to just get it out and say. And so in me doing that, it's like, we don't always have to respond to every little thing that I'm trying to accomplish, but your temperament is so absorbent and peaceful. You are a peacekeeper, where I'm okay flipping some tables over.
Right.
I'm okay. Like, if it gets to a place where like truth is just not being followed, I will get up and say something. Yeah. It's compulsive. Like, I want the truth to be done. Your temperament does too, but there's a part of your temperament, and I'm trying not to like explain your temperament, 'cause I don't know if you want me to say that or not.
That's fine.
Okay.
It doesn't bother me.
But in that capacity, it's like you're more willing to step aside and just let things happen, because it's an agreeable position, where I can be extremely disagreeable.
Well, when it comes to like me and you, it's not so much that I'm just agreeable, but I trust you.
That's a good way to put it.
We've gone through enough together that I know that you're not going to make a decision for our family that I'm like, whoa, like, I really don't agree with that, or whatever. You've always come to me first with, hey, this is a big decision, or we're going to go forward with whatever. And it's never been like, well, you've left me out, or even though I might not voice an opinion very often or anything like that,
or ever,
but you've always made sure that we're together on whatever the issue is, so
yeah. Well,
you're not leading me blindly, I should say.
Okay. Is that the best way to build trust in a marriage? Like, what do you think? 'Cause, I mean, I know our story's unique and great, and it's been amazing, but like, that's not what I hear from other people, like, so how, in your words, especially from the wife female perspective, what is a way that we as men can help build that trust and do a better job at that? Because like, I don't want to always talk about my feelings or anything unless I'm just mad, then everybody's going to hear about it in the house, right? But in that capacity of like, when you see me doing something good, you encourage me in it, but I'm not so much designed like that. So I just, what do you think?
I think a lot of times, well, for me personally, it's not so much that you're telling me or showing me. Like, I'd rather you show me more than you tell me. I know that I can trust you, and our trust grows because you've never shown me a reason not to trust you. There's never been something that I've questioned. I don't have to question where you're going or what you're doing because you're telling me. I've never had a thought of like, oh, no, well, he's going to go do whatever or go to another place, or there's just never been, and you've all that, or you're, hey, we're all going to go do this. Oh, we are. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
It's never been.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
We get to go sit at the church for 6 hours. Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is not necessarily, because actions speak louder than words anytime, so I think really showing somebody that you're trustworthy is a big deal.
So, you and I, we do something that is becoming more unique than I thought. We are on all the bank accounts together.
Oh, that's uncommon?
Yeah.
Oh,
it is. Yeah. The more counseling and marriage counseling I'm doing, people are really separating themselves in the financial situation. I never thought any different, as when we were first getting together. It's like, well, I got to get you on this count and me on yours, or whatever. And to me, like, being a financial warrior, because like that is a part of my temperament. I'm always I've got this high fear of economic failure. It's like, is the dollar going to crash? Do I need gold? All that stuff, which I don't think the dollar's going to crash. I don't want to get off on that tangent right now, but I do. It's like, even though we've got a bank account with savings, we've got home equity line of credit. We don't really have any debt as far as car payments and credit cards. We
Right.
just have our home payment. We've done very well as far as getting our finances situated. But to me, I was like, one of the first things I wanted to do, because like that was my deepest, darkest, like if I give you access to my money,
Yeah,
I
right.
trust you.
Yeah.
And again, I won't ever say that, but it's an action. I'm just
Right.
I'll do it for you, and we're good. Whereas you're a little more, I want to tell you how good you're doing and
Right.
encourage you, and it's not like it's not an insecure position. It's just like that's part of who you are. You like to do that. You like to be an encouragement to people. Where like I'll go do something for you. I don't care if you say thank you or not.
Right.
I mean, I might complain a little bit. It's like if I'm holding the door open for somebody and I've sat there and it's taking you 30 minutes to cross a little one, say thank you, okay?
Right.
You see, I got 3 kids. Say thank you.
Yeah.
But anything else, I'm fine.
It's just the door thing.
It's just the door thing. It's my only problem in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, trust is a big thing. And with me, the financials. And, of course, a lot of people have issues in their finances, especially in marriage and things of that nature. It's never been an issue for us, though.
No.
Why do you think?
Well, I think a lot of it is we've put our trust in God, and that He's going to lead us in what we need to do and where we need to put our money. I think especially you've had many opportunity to give to others that have desperately needed it, and instead of it being well, let me think about it, let me pray about it, it's, well, I have it here, and God's given it back tenfold sometimes, I mean, it's just been something that has always kind of been on our hearts,
Right.
and there's times, you've come home, well, I hope it doesn't bother you, but I gave so-and-so some money for, whatever the cause was, and I'm like, oh, great, I'm glad that we were able to, it's not, it's never come to my mind or heart that I'm like, well, I wish you'd stop that,
Right.
Will you stop helping people?
Yeah.
That's what, no, it's always been like, I'm glad we were able to help, so.
Right. Yeah. I forget about that stuff a lot. I do. It's like there's so much that you and I've had to do, and I really don't remember it. But the cool thing is, you and I have never historically been wealthy. I mean, we've both worked very, I'll say, what used to be middle class jobs, but now is not. I mean, it's like you and I literally by the standards of the state of Tennessee, we are way below the poverty line, which I think is around $60-something thousand, right? So we don't even make that, but we don't get in debt. No. The few times we have, it was investment positions to earn money, which then gave us a lot of money at the end,
Right.
So it's like, but I still on a yearly basis don't really make a lot. And that's okay. Some of that's actually by design to some degree, because like, I'm not trying to be rich, and I'm not trying to stress our marriage. If I'm always working and always out of the house and never around, and we've got a huge fat bank account, but there's no love in the tank here, and to
Exactly.
you, it's like, well, what good is that? With our support system and our value system, if you will, you were working up until just, 2-3 weeks ago, right? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. But for us, like with our children, we're not going to sit back and watch them be indoctrinated by this culture, this cancel culture, this wokeness, this garbage, and this ideology that's out of hell.
Right.
And even amongst where you were working, the standards of, because it was a Christian school, it was a Christian preschool, all these things. And their standards went from asking people if they were Christians and when did they get saved and, what are their belief systems, to that's no longer a question before you get hired. And they now have atheists that are working amongst those kids, and where these adults think, oh, we're sending our kids to, and this didn't come from you. This actually came from somebody else. So
I don't remember that.
you've not, I've got my other sources. But, you have these adult parents like, okay, I'm sending my kid to this Christian place.
Yeah.
And that's not happening, like on the front lines where it should be happening.
Right.
And that disheartens me, because like I even was trusting my kids to go to that place. And now I'm like, I don't want anything to do. And it's not that I'm of the mindset that I have to be in control of all of that, but I am in the mindset that I do need to protect their minds while they're innocent.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely. Yeah.
and I think when you and I were having those discussions, it's like, hey, we're about to lose, whatever, 30 grand a year, off of our bottom line if you stop working. And part of me is like, I don't care. If it costs us $1 million and my children don't grow up to think that they can be a cat and pee in a litter box in front of their friends, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And I know it's like, well, you're not being inclusive, and it's like, okay, but it's a mindset that is perverted. And we as a society have got to accept this. I don't think so.
No, absolutely not.
And I listened to a gentleman the other day talk about how we even homeschool children, because we are now going to be homeschooling our children, obviously. So, but they were talking about how even homeschooled children are going to be indoctrinated. I don't agree with that.
I'll say why.
Yeah, because, well, one, you're not going to be telling them they can,
No.
do anything they want. There's going to
Right.
be rules and regulations and standards. And it's not like we got to be mean about it. It's like, this is the truth of God, and his word says that he created you for a purpose and in his image, and
Right.
you are perfect the way you are by him. Now, they're going to mess up and they're going to sin, but thank God we've got some forgiveness and there's some grace and mercy there.
Right.
But I got to really thinking about it, and you and I kind of discussed this. I'll leave out most of the story because I know we don't want to talk names, but
Sure.
I think it's because even amongst the homeschool, even amongst the parents that are sensitive to the notion of this woke ideology that's trying to infiltrate everybody's minds,
Right.
I think it's maybe, I don't mean to be harsh, but it's just like a laziness or a lack of knowledge that when we give our phones to our children, it's not you giving them access to the world, it's you giving access to the world to them, and I think I said that right. If I didn't, y'all know what I mean, hopefully.
Yeah.
But these kids, even if they're sheltered, it's like they're being raised by TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been around certain kids that are like, oh, I saw on TikTok and I saw on TikTok, and I'm
You're
like,
you're 7.
why?
Or 8.
Yeah.
Why?
You're 6 years old.
Yeah.
And you're saying words that I didn't say till I was 15 or
Yep.
8 years old, Mom. Sorry, but I didn't say it in front of her because she would smack me.
Exactly.
Well, I got spanked growing up. You can tell. I'm not upset by it. But, it's like the ideology of even if you're protecting them from public, private, school, homeschooling, they're like, oh, your children just aren't safe anywhere. Yes, they are. If you, as a parent and as a marriage, keep them safe.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm of the mindset that if that is occurring in your own house, it's a lack of watching what's going on.
Yeah.
It's a looseness of here, just sit on your iPad, do as you please. Our kids use their iPads every day.
But they're not allowed to have YouTube on them. They're not allowed to have certain things that we don't agree with or that we want to monitor. There's nothing wrong with them playing a couple games, here and there. But if I'm just letting them play and watch and whatever it might be, I mean, how many ads pop up that, Declan has hit his face in the couch because I don't want to watch that. You don't want me to see that. I don't, and he knows.
And usually it's like half dressed women or, something
or some
promiscuous
horror movie that has popped up for, whatever reason.
Now,
even
he
though they're
won't
watching
watch
a
the
kid's
ads,
show.
but I will take his iPad and I will watch them by myself.
Oh, really?
No. I mean, no, the passcode is iPad.
I think you set it up.
Yeah, I forgot what it is. But yeah, I mean, it's just like this, you got to be hands-on. Your marriage, you got to be hands-on in your marriage. You got to be hands-on with your kids.
And maybe there are some homeschool families that are doing things like that, and that's why they have that idea. But we as Christian family will not have that standard. Yeah. So
do you think that if, let's say a 10-year-old, because you have so much more experience with younger children than I do, but let's say that they've gotten off the path or whatever we want to call it here, and they start to acknowledge the world more than they do their biblical values and the biblical worldview. Do you think that they can come back from that easily, or does it take time? Like, what's your thought on something of that nature?
When we were younger, it probably would have been not as long as it does these days. You know, I think now it's going to take a lot more time because they're watching these images over and over and over, watching these videos over and over and over, and it's getting ingrained in their minds a lot easier and a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I think that it can and will, you know, Lord willing, but I think it will take some time.
Yeah. Longer than it used to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, like I said, Mama spanked us growing up.
Right.
I mean, I never had this happen to me. You know which brother of mine this happened to. There's only 3 of us. So anyway, I remember her stopping one time. She goes, "Go pick a switch." You know,
Oh, yeah.
like that had to happen. And we're sitting, you know, Maggie and I are in the back just watching. Yeah, get him. But you know, it's just that's saying. I'm not saying you should beat your kids, whatever. Yet to even spank my kids.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to, I would, but they've not done anything that is a corporal capital crime. You know, It's like, okay, you lost the remote for 2 weeks. That's probably the worst thing. We're coming off of a lost remote kick in our household. So we went 2 weeks without television, you know, so there I was with my 8-inch, you know, phone watching my cooking shows and enjoying life while they're sitting there just, you know, drying up like raisins because they've not watched Mr. Beast.
Actually, they were playing a lot more. They were getting along.
They weren't zombies.
No, they were doing Legos and making up their own games, and then they were going through all the Bible stories that they knew, just pretending to be all the different characters. And so I think Declan did the whole lifespan of Moses. And you were preaching the other day, and you said something about frogs falling out of the sky and stuff, and he goes, "That was about Moses, Mom." I was like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. So
I know that story, Mom.
yeah. So I mean, it was probably a good thing that we lost the remote for a little while.
I think so. You know, it's so easy to get lost. You know, and anytime I'm at home, you know how it is. Like I'm always working.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm on the phone, I'm on the computers, I'm always editing and doing something along those lines. But and thank you for letting me do that. You know, because like even though I'm there, maybe I'm not present so a lot of times. You know, but. You don't get on to me about that. Again, you're not a nagging, you know, death by 1,000 cuts. I think that's what happens with a lot of marriages.
Mm-hmm.
It's just every little thing.
Well, the way that we've had to start this and the way we've had to do a lot of things, if we don't do that, it's not going to get done at all. And so, I don't know. I realized that if you have the time to do it, I need to be able to let you do it, you know?
Well, it's rise and grind. Every day it's rise and grind. And I think it's true in your marriage too. Like you've got to work at your marriage. You know, you need to take time every day to sit down and talk, you know, hopefully uninterrupted. Now, 3 kids and a baby, you know, it's like probably not as uninterrupted as we would want.
Right.
But in the capacity of like, you need to have a certain amount of time. You need to continue dating, you know, and it's not just so that I can take you out for movie and dinner and get, you know, what I want when we get home. I need to court you, you know. What did I hear the other day? And I've been trying to do it. NST, right? That's what I keep saying. It's non-sexual touches, everybody.
Yes.
Sorry, spoiler alert. Don't let your kids
My
listen to
favorite
this
is when
one.
you announce it.
I'm doing an NST.
or the number. All right, 7.
Yeah. What is it, 12?
I think you told me 12.
12 or 17. I don't know. It's something, it's above 10.
Yeah.
But for the man, you need to do at least 12 NSTs a day. You know, and I am not naturally affectionate.
Yeah.
Which, you know, the church, they always laugh. They're like, "Oh, you're such a good talker." And, you know, and I don't, it doesn't come natural. I don't know.
Might not feel natural, but it sounds natural.
Well, thank you. But to me, in my temperament, when I am engaging with you, I just immediately go to my caveman-like Neanderthal state of like, let's go have another child. You know, just that's all I think about. But that's not the right thing. It's not always the right thing. I need to calm that down. But that is my temperament. You know, my temperament is very like, if we're holding hands, it's because it's going to lead to, you know, me being happier, and you just read through the lines there. But that's not always the case, because your temperament actually does need that embrace.
Right.
It needs that affection, and it's not a gross thing. You know, like I remember I was talking with this young lady one time, and she wasn't married or anything, but she was talking about how like even holding hands was, it was too far for her. She was
Oh.
never going to hold hands. I was like, so if you go on a date,
Yeah.
you're not going to hold young boys' hands. She's like, nope, not going to do it.
Interesting.
Because to her, it was such a sacred act,
Yeah.
And to you, it's like, you need that. You need that affection. You need the hugs, and you need
Right.
you're doing a good job, and you're a good mom. And, it's like, the house looks good, and thank you for cleaning the fridge, which it does look really good, by the way. She did clean the fridge the other day. It's awesome. Just looked like the same milk carton had been taken in and out 13 million
13. Oh,
times.
yeah.
There's like a little indentation. You can't even tell it was there. But you did good. But it's like that type of touch and that type of affection. It just it needs to be something. Even though I don't naturally have a proclivity to do that, I need to allow that to you, so that I'm not withholding from your temperament. Because when your temperament is not being addressed properly, that we call it temperament balance. I don't like saying that, but it is the best way, I guess, to look at it. Then you get stressed. And then stress brings on, whether it's overeating or cursing or frustration with your spouse, or, abusing certain drugs or alcohol, or going out and spending money, doing your retail therapy, whatever it may be. That's because
Find another outlet.
Yes, exactly. So we're getting too far away from our natural temperament bond, where you and I, our temperament is very much like we're both homebodies. We both get our charge, like our batteries recharged, sitting at home, watching a movie, eating popcorn, just chilling, like
Maybe not even talking to each other.
like seriously. I mean, really, like we, it doesn't make me uncomfortable if you walk through the room and you don't say a word to me.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. And, we've been married for 10 years, but that was kind of year one too. It wasn't like we ever had to compete for each other's attention, but in that capacity, that not everybody's built that way.
No.
And the old saying, opposites attract, and that can be very true, because the main temperament that you and I both have is called the melancholy temperament.
Okay.
And so, is this new to you? You're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
Well, that, or we haven't talked about ours in so long.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, you're melancholy supine for the most part,
Yeah.
and I'm melancholy choleric. And so I literally have the two worst blends of temperament. I know. I do, though, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because I am the most negative, neurotic. Like, it's a natural mindset for the melancholy. Like, if you were to tell me something that critiqued, like if somebody says, hey, the podcast just isn't any good, like, I would get highly upset naturally. Like, it's just nothing I can do about it. That's
immediate.
It's instinct. Yeah. And then on top of that, you have like compulsive melancholy, compulsive choleric, compulsive supine, whatever. And in that capacity, you got to be really careful, because if you know that about yourself, we call that a temperament weakness. Well, I don't need to react and bite everybody's head off that doesn't like what I do. So you got to learn to trust in the Lord. Like, if God's told me, hey, go start a church, and then all of hell came against us when we were doing that,
I mean, if.
Well, it's like, that actually motivates me now.
Yeah.
When people are like, no, you shouldn't do that. I'm like, okay, I'll prove you wrong.
Right.
If I know it's the right thing, I will stand. That's the hill I'll die on. I was doing something about our temperaments, melancholy, talking about how we recharge. Oh, opposites attract. Yes. So sorry, let me get the squirrel brain right back into where we're at. So typically it's the opposites attract. In your case, our temperament is actually more alike than it's not. Which that doesn't mean that our character is the same, because you're very much your own person and I'm very much my own person. I mean, knowing your dad, you guys are the cool, calm, collected, nothing bothers you. Things are just the way they are, and it's fine. My side of the family, we're volcanoes. It's like we're Old Faithful. Like, we're gonna erupt. Like, it's going to happen. But I think as we've all gotten older, that's obviously calmed down a lot more. But if you don't know that about yourself, you just you give into it too much.
Right.
And do you remember, so this is some years ago, and I do this in almost all of my premarital counseling now. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I go through the donkey, or excuse me, I go through the goat, the T-Rex, and the chocolate-covered dragon.
Yeah.
Because that gives people an outlet of knowing who they are,
Right.
without having to do some huge assessment to figure
Yeah.
out their temperament
Yeah.
blend and things of that nature. And so the old saying goes that if I'm a T-Rex, I'm going to probably marry a goat. So again, you have a goat, T-Rex, and
Greatest
chocolate
of all
covered
time.
dragon. Greatest of all time. Well, you're definitely a goat. You're definitely a goat. There's no doubt about that. And the goat is the very submissive one, and the one that is willing to be led and things of that nature. And then the chocolate covered dragon is the passive aggressive, like they look sweet on the outside, but they will breathe fire down your face in an instant, so it's like, I'll get you. But typically it is the T-Rex and the goat that are getting together. Now, two goats can get together, which maybe sometimes I try to be a goat, but I am a T-Rex. I know that because I do have the ability to chomp things in half and roar, and I've got little hands, little arms. But so usually, a T-Rex and a goat will work. Two goats will work. Two T-Rexes don't though, because they clash.
Gotcha.
And I've seen many relationships like that. It's like, hey, we're going to get married. Are you sure?
Sure. Yeah.
And then the chocolate covered dragon, like that's kind of a behavioral issue as far as I'm concerned. Like don't be mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to get revenge on everybody. In fact, biblical values, revenge is the Lord's. So let him do it for you.
Right.
So, but in knowing that and knowing our temperaments and our blends, how does that work for you? Because like, I am willing to voice my opinion. I'm willing to vent my frustration, even though the Bible says that that's what fools do. But in your case, you don't really express frustration. It might hurt you, but you might actually be angry, but you would never tell me.
No.
Yeah. Why?
I don't know. I guess I kind of feel like I guess like it looks weak, or that I don't know. It's hard to put in words. I guess I feel like if I express that like I'm angry, it's never really helped anything.
It's not gotten me anywhere.
Or usually if I do get frustrated or angry, I'll start like angry cleaning.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll go do laundry, and then that's where I express my anger to the Lord.
I'm going to show you turtle.
Yeah.
I'm going to put some bleach on these white clothes right now.
Exactly. I can get a lot done when I angry clean.
Anger fuels you? Does it? I mean, seriously, I've never asked you that. I don't know. No?
Not like that.
No? Okay.
No.
It does me.
Yeah.
Because if I don't
I guess
use
it depends on the situation.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't, not every time I come home and leave a cabinet door open or whatever, right? I hope.
No.
Maybe that's why our clothes are always so well done.
everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to compliment.
Oh.
Yeah, I was going to teeter-totter in the Yeah. I don't know, I just, as far as like the connection, I guess shift gears here. Why do you think most marriages, are difficult or unhappy? Or, I don't mean most marriages, but, it's like when you see people in a difficult spot.
High these days.
Yeah, but like, why do you think there is such rough patches for people?
I think a lot of them are not based on the Lord. I think a lot of people, sadly, are not waiting for who God really has for them. And I think that people get tired of waiting, so that they take that into their own hands or, opportunities. I think that, you said our temperaments go well together. I think everybody should probably go well together to some extent, knowing that that's who God really has for you,
Yeah, that's a good point, and I think a lot of times people actually don't really know who they are, and if you don't know who you are, I don't expect to get in a relationship and you to complete me. No. That you can compliment me, we can add to each other, but as far as completion, and that's not a dig at you or anybody, but if I cannot give my entire self to you, then I'm only giving you a portion.
Yeah.
and I'm hiding something. You know, that's not the true identity of which I need to come into this marriage with. And I think that's where some people get into their pitfalls, because they've gone so long. Maybe they didn't have a dad, or they didn't have a mom, or they were raised in a foster environment. You know, they're missing links in their life, and then all of a sudden they feel happy and they have this excitement again. There's this person that's like made me feel something I've not ever had to feel before, or I haven't had the opportunity to. So it's like, yes, that's the completion. That's exactly what I've needed.
Yeah.
And then you get together and you're like, oh, this person absolutely. I hate them. But you know, it's like, okay, we've gone through the honeymoon.
Yeah.
And here we are 3 weeks later, and it's like, oh, you don't know how to cook, you don't know how to clean, you've never changed a tire on a car.
You don't have to tell everybody.
Not all my faults, right? You make a killer biscuit and gravy.
You only like it because you don't have to cook it.
No, look, that might be well, you know how I am with cooking, though.
Yeah.
Ask my mother. I mean, I have like had past girlfriends, not to bring up all dirty, stinky laundry, like real stinky laundry, baby. I mean, that's like the stinkiest. But my mom, one time, she pulled me aside. She's like, look, you know, when you're in the kitchen with your girlfriends, just let them cook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm like, oh, you got to chop it like this. And so.
Like those helicopter parents. You're a helicopter cooker.
Yeah. A helicopter cooker.
Yeah.
Can you get me a apron that says that?
Yes.
I would love that. But yeah, you know, in that capacity, though, you do want to know who you are, and especially in the Christian belief, because it's like, I know who I am in Christ.
Right.
I know that I was a lost sinner. I know that I failed, and I know that the blood that Jesus shed on the cross, it purchased me with a price. You know, it wasn't free for him.
Right.
It is a free gift to me, though. You know, but now I get the honor to serve him, and I get the honor to work and do as much as I can before we go to heaven. Right. But I also know who I am in Christ. So it's like, I can sit here and I can talk about my pitfalls. You know, I can talk about, like, yes, I absolutely know that anger is something that I have to deal with. I know that economic failure is something I have to deal with.
Yeah.
Being offended, right? I mean, offenses are going to come, you know, especially as a Christian nowadays. Everybody, like, being a white, straight male Christian, right? That is like, sorry, you know, everybody.
Everything going wrong for you, honey. I'm sorry.
Right. I mean, I was born into privilege, right? I mean, I would love to show you all the stuff I don't have, you know, because like society has, like, you know, it's like, what do they call them? Colonists, right? You know, it's like, we're the colonists. And it's like, I didn't live in that age.
No.
Sorry, you know, and I don't know how to take accountability for what happened back then. I love you now, and I hope the best for you now. And if I can help you, I absolutely will. But, you know, that kind of stuff, it's like, but I know who I am. And so me knowing who I am, you knowing who you are, you know, I mean, I know you grew up, your parents never fought in front of you. You know, they were very good. You know, it's like your dad's a pastor, your mom, you know, good pastor's wife. And, you know, just as you are to me, it's like there's this bond of like the higher calling. And that's what keeps the wolves at bay. Yeah. You know, because when we wake up together, as valiant and silly as this may sound, it's like we've got to wake up and kill something beyond us. Yeah. So we got to prepare for battle. You know, the dragon's out there breathing fire, and like we're going to shield up together and go out there with our spears and our swords together. We're going to chop the head off this serpent, and we're going to be good together. Right. You know, so why turn inwardly? Because like we know who we are. Yeah. You know how bad I am. You don't have any flaws, so that's great. But
sure. Start painting that picture.
We don't focus on that. You know, we just don't. I mean, it's like there's so many more things that need to be accomplished in the short time that we have in this world. Yeah. You know, you alluded to something earlier that, you know, especially with like the counseling ministry that I'm in and, you know, being a pastor, I mean, there's a lot of times I've got to go meet with people and you don't bark orders and you don't, hey, you need to be home at 9. And, you know, it's like that level of trust. It's such an intimate opportunity that we have, you know, it's like, okay, we talk about the NST stuff. Like that's my NST, you know, like you don't say, well, you got to do this. I can't tell you how many times we've had people like come and say, hey, I want to be a pastor with you. Right. So teach me your ways. And I'm like, all right, young Jedi, whatever, you know, Sorry to bring Star Wars, but I'll repent later. But if and when those things occur, so many times we'll be out doing ministry, and ministry takes hours.
Yes.
You know, it's not, hey, I'll be back in 30.
Yeah.
I'll be back in 30 days. You know, I don't keep the stove on for me, because I'm not going to be home in time.
You don't eat leftovers anymore.
I don't. You're exactly right. Disgusting. I don't know how anybody eats leftovers. I mean, seriously, it's all dried out. It's not ever going to be to the temperature it was. You know, I could go on and on and on. So anyway. But, you know, I've been out in the field with certain people that I don't have any affiliation with anymore, because, like, they couldn't keep up with the drive and the demand of ministry. You know, and even Jesus alluded to that. It's like, your family's not going to like you.
Right.
You know, you're going to have to be committed to me so much.
I've never said that I like you being gone. I just said that you could go.
Right, right. But isn't that the truth? It's like, sometimes I don't like being gone.
Yeah.
You know, there's sometimes I don't like what God's telling me to do as far as our giving.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, Lord, I've got to do that. Yeah, that one, I could have done this with that. It's like, no, I've got something better for you, but I need you to commit.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and I've been out, and it's just like every few minutes, the texts and the calls. When are you going to be home? What are you doing? Who are you with? You know, it's like ministry. There needs to be such a level of trust and intimacy at a soul level. Yeah. You know, because, okay, you got the body, mind, and the soul, body, soul, and spirit. Let's say it that way. Yeah. And so the spirit is the eternal portion of us, right? Your soul is how you think, and your body is, of course, your body. But, like, I believe when you and I really were like, okay, like, we're committing, we're making this, it's like our soul came together. Yeah. You know, I mean, that's actually biblical. Like, you become one, right? Yeah. But if you're not together at the soul level, it's going to be a difficult journey, you know? And I think that's where, like, the foundation of trust was forged for us. And with what I do now, it's like, I mean, even after we finish this, you're going to leave. I'm going to be here at the church for another probably 5 hours doing counseling and shooting other videos and things of that nature. And it's like, and you're going to be at home with the 3 children. And, but I appreciate that, you know, I appreciate the opportunity you let me cast my net out, you know, and try to at least capture something, you know, because I think one day when we get to heaven, that's going to be the most important thing to you and me. Absolutely. Is that we had some good times here, and we got to, like, show some people Jesus on the way, you know. And that's what I see the other day. It's like it shows a picture of somebody getting raptured, and it says, when I get raptured, I'm going to grab an atheist on the way up, you know. That's pretty cool. That's cool. Unfortunately, I don't know if they get in, but hey, I'll go along for the ride for a little bit.
You can watch me get in.
Yeah, you can watch me get in. Sorry. But, you know, there is a beauty when the soul collides and really melts into one, you know, and that's something that happened very early on in our marriage, and that's what needs to happen. You know, that's I don't guess I've really ever really thought it through, but it's like when I'm doing marital counseling and things of that nature, a lot of times it's the physical, you know, it's the money, it's the hierarchy of these things that we maybe sometimes can't even control. You know, if you leave here and break your leg and you've got medical bills that just take us under, then okay, that's not in our control, but we got to deal with it, you know. Life happens. But people are so thin and they're so stretched, and it's like their souls aren't together, and so when any little thing happens, it's just like everything is wrong. You know, and it's that old adage of like, well, you always, and this is always, and I can't believe it again. It's like, I don't know that we think like that, do we? It's like every little problem has this huge reaction.
No, because I think both of us think in the mindset of like, if there is an issue, I want to help you. I don't want to blame you for the situation. Instead, you know what I mean? Like, I'll help you close the cabinets. Like, it's okay, you know. But yeah, a lot of times I think that they want to blame each other for the situation instead of finding a way to work through it together, because they don't want to be part of the problem, I guess.
Yeah, accountability. When I go and I preach in the prison,
Yeah.
nobody's done anything wrong in there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like I go in and be like, "Hey, what are you in here for?"
Right.
How many people have you hurt? You know,
Yeah.
who did you rob?
Mm-hmm.
But you go and you preach, and at the end of it, these guys and girls, they'll open up a little bit, and I gotta tell you, Pastor, I didn't do nothing wrong. I'm like, okay, I'm not here to judge why you're here.
Yeah.
I'm here to just present the gospel. But there's two things. It's the accountability, and it's a lack of respect for the rules. It's typically what I've seen in the system, as far as that goes. And a lot of it stems from like guys, because I've mainly preached to men in prison, but they didn't have dads. They didn't have a boundary system and a rule system set in place to establish right and wrong. I think morally, we all have a conscience that should be saying right and wrong, but in that capacity of what these guys have gone through, it's shut off. And some people, like, they don't have the ability to be provoked in that way. They don't have any idea of what right and wrong is because they've so conditioned and calloused their heart not to, that their soul is suppressed at that point. And it's like, I'm screaming down here, but you're not letting my soul breathe, or the soul breathe. So how are you ever going to have any of that accountability? That can happen in marriage too. It's like, if I don't have accountability to you, with my finances or whatever, it's like, okay, then I can just go and do what I want, and it's like a free reign, and that's just not the way it needs to be.
Right.
Even on an agreeable scale, it's like, if you're going to be more agreeable and I'm going to be more disagreeable, well, I'm going to be naturally more prone to probably dominate. But if I know that, I don't need to abuse that.
Right.
You
don't.
Well, thank you. I tell this story a lot, but I think it kind of proves the point. When we first got married, we were living in what was a converted attic, which was a pretty nice attic. It had a bedroom, it had a living room, had its own bathroom. I mean, it was a pretty huge thing. I mean, we had the whole house, but that's where the bedroom was. So, but the where we'd set our bed, there was this pitch in the ceiling that, where one side you had to like lean to get to the bed, and the other side you could just walk straight up. And so as we were setting up the bedroom, I just remember saying, just off the cuff, like, hey, you sleep on this side because I'm too tall and I don't want to like do this and have to, and the Holy Spirit just punched me in the chest, right? in a nice way, but it's just like, don't talk to your wife like that. I'm like, you're probably right. In fact, I know you're right. Thank you, God.
And I was just over there like, okay.
Yeah. But your little agreeable, cute spirit was just like, I'm just happy to be a married woman. Thank you. Not to like degrade you, but it was. It's like we were happy.
We were.
But I remember. We were. It used to be.
Those are good times.
But I remember speaking to you, and I looked over at you and I asked you, I said, I can't remember 10 years ago exactly, but I said, let me redo it now. Honey, would you mind? And I changed the wording of it. And even though like I knew at that point, we had dated for so long, like I knew you pretty well, but at that point it's like, I knew even then, it's like if I asked you, it was still going to get the same result as me telling you, but I needed to change how I was responding to you. Right. So that our soul stayed connected, and that we don't come and there's no division in between us, because I think that Satan wants Christian marriages to fail. He wants any marriage to fail.
Absolutely, yeah.
In fact, the government needs to get out of marriage, so I don't care what the government standards are. Right. Let's look at it through a Christian point of view. The marriage covenant was designed by God in the very beginning with Adam and Eve, and, that is something that Satan has tried to divide and spoil for eons. And so in those little moments, again, it's death by 1,000 cuts. Like if I always talk to you and just tell you and rant and rave, and I'm a jerk, like I don't need to do that. And so, not saying I'm perfect, because I'm sure I still, you're shaking your head now. You're like, nope, you're not.
We're not.
But
nobody's perfect.
If that was consistent throughout our entire decade of marriage, like at some point it's like you feel defeated. And I don't.
Nobody likes to be told what to do all the time.
Right. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to ever, be the one that's like always superior. I guess that's kind of the word that I would put on that, because like superiority may be necessary in some aspects, but I don't know in a marriage that I have to be superior to you and you don't have to answer to me. It's like, let's cooperate together and try to find a way to say, and this is, I know we alluded to this a little bit earlier, but let's try to find a way to say yes to each other as much as possible without, being enabling. And I remember I said something like that, and Sarah, I was preaching. It's the only time I've ever, Sarah, shout out to you, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's the only time I've ever had somebody raise their hand and say, "What do you mean by enabling?" Like how do you enable somebody in a marriage?
Yeah.
And I gave her the example. It's like, if I'm an alcoholic and you just continue to allow that and you feed me my alcohol and you don't ever say anything, it's like, okay, that's enabling, But it's also in how I treat you. And how I respond and how you respond to me. And if we're always accepting this like devilish evil side, because we don't think that, oh, I'm not a bad person. Well, I'm sure the guys that were shooting women in the back of the head in Nazi Germany weren't bad people either. No. But then when enough people around you are doing it, and that's just the thing to do, you can end up conforming to some things you never thought were capable of your little body, So like evil can happen, and it does happen. But we got to nip it. We've got to be accountable to that, and we've got to speak up, when things are going wrong. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to just end this with going through Ephesians 5, a few verses here. Yeah. And we could just kind of give a few little perspectives that we've had and what the Lord's done in our marriage and how to be successful and things of that nature. So this is the New King James Version, but this is Ephesians 5, verse 22. It says, "Wives, submit to your own husbands as the Lord, or as to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as also Christ is the head of the church, and he's the Savior of the body. Therefore, just as the church is subject to Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wife, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her, that he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of water by the word, that he might present her to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy and without blemish. So husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no one has ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as the Lord does the church. For we are members of his body, of his flesh, and of his bones. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church," which I think is a key point there. "Nevertheless, let each one of you in particular so love his own wife as himself, and let his wife see that she respects her husband." What's your thoughts?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I agree. We kind of talked about this a couple of Sundays ago. But I think it's always been important that, men, the way that they feel loved is when you respect them. Yeah.
I think that's the last verse, isn't it?
Yeah.
There, it's like, wives respect your husband. And you're exactly right.
But it calls, if you read, where is it? But it says that we're called to respect you, and you're called to love us. Why aren't you called to love me?
Why aren't I?
Yeah. Doesn't say love.
Oh, what do you mean? I'm confused. Hold on.
No.
What are you saying?
I don't have to love you. I have to respect you.
Oh, well, that's how I feel love.
Exactly.
Okay, sorry. My Neanderthal
I might have said it backwards, but, I think a lot of women, I guess, get offended by this verse because they're like, well, why don't we have to do both? Why don't you have to do the same thing that I'm doing, and why don't I have to do what you're doing?
Yeah.
And so I guess it almost sounds like you said, there's a superiority, but there's not. Yes, you're supposed to lead. You're supposed to be the head of the household. I'm supposed to submit to what you have for our family, but we're still one. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be something that we're doing together, not just that what you say goes or what I say goes, or, you know, it's supposed to be us working together kind of a thing.
Sure.
So,
Sure. You know, and it's talking about in the man's position here, just as Christ loved the church.
yeah.
And that means that, like, I've got to be willing to die for you and our children. And until you have kids, I guess you don't understand that level of love of I would die for you. You know, like I absolutely, if it came down to one of my children or you being able to continue to live or me taking that place, I absolutely 100% every single time would not hesitate. I would do that.
Yeah.
You know, or at least I hope I would. You know, I think I would, but, you know, my heart is that, yes, that's what I want to do. You don't know what you would do until you're faced with the situation, though.
And every
so,
situation's different.
you know, as valiant as that sounds, it's like you have to, you know, honor the moment, you know, but if you prepare yourself for that, then maybe it would be so.
Right.
And so you think about that as Christ loved the church, you respect me, I love you. It's reciprocal, you know, and you do respect me, and I hope you feel loved. And every day. But in the capacity of that too, thinking of like, that's the man's role, is like, I will die for you. You know, that's what Christ did for us. And he's the bride, or excuse me, we're the bride and he's the groom.
Yeah.
You know, and so Christ took our place. And this is a picture of the gospel. And, you know, we look at this, and marriages suffer because they're not gospel centered, and they're not gospel influenced. They're not gospel, you know, that spear just needs to be going right through the middle of our heart with everything that we do and every decision that we make. Because when the gospel is the one that's leading us, then it's like, I'm not going to command this ship because I want to do what God would have done and allowed his son to do for me, and that's to die to myself and to die to some ideologies and to die to my selfishness. I mean, there's been plenty of times where I'm like, I want you to do this or do that, but it's like, if it doesn't happen, then it's not my responsibility to rage at you and to condemn you. It's my responsibility to die to that thought and to keep moving on, because that's not the mission. The mission is that we have a happy marriage. Yeah. The mission is that we continue to cooperate and create a beautiful life for our children and a beautiful church, you know, alongside with Christ. Like that's the mission. And that mindset, it's like, then it becomes a reflection of love, you know, and like, okay, we're respecting in the love and the cooperation of respect and all that, but it's really the truest, most selfless version of love that we can be. It's like when we're doing best by each other and for each other, but then in turn, it's like a representation of Jesus inside of our life and how much we love him, you know? So it's like, and I'm not condemning people if you're going through a bad patch, hey, it happens, you know, but you can get through it, because we're going to die to that problem. You know, we're going to die to being a slave to that sinful pride that brings up inside of us, like, it has to be my way, or I'm going to chomp you and condemn you and keep you under my thumb, you know, and that's the gospel. But if it's not being shown, you know, I don't know how marriages get saved apart from the gospel. You know, I deal with a lot of people that
a lot of them have Band-Aids on them.
They do. And, you know, the gospel is the surgery mechanism. I mean, it's literally the blood of Christ as far as I'm concerned. You know, it does get messy.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, but wait 3 days later and it's risen again. You know, it's like it's not the end. You know, the gospel, it is death and life all together. And it's like, okay, the cocoon of a butterfly, you know, caterpillar goes in, but you get a butterfly that comes out.
Right.
The gospel is that way. You know, we're born again, we're renewed, and it's like you have been transformed. The old self is no longer you.
Right.
You know, we just did some baptisms yesterday. It's like that is the representation of that old life is gone.
Right.
And when I get married, guess what? My old life,
it's gone.
It's gone. You know, I remember what I did, but I no longer that person, because I'm now you. And you are now me, and we are married amongst God, because that's the covenant. Is that the Barney song?
Yeah. Sorry.
Barney's ripped. I don't know why I said that. But, you know, the submission thing, I know a lot of people have a lot of issue with that. Yeah. And I don't know, what's your take on the submissiveness in those verses?
Well, if you go back to Genesis, when, you know, Eve was made, she was called Adam's helper. You know, I think if we think,
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about how big of a screw up she was.
well, that too. It's awful.
Just kidding.
No, but you know, we're called to be the helper in the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and again, like you said, you going out and doing ministry and things like that. I'm called to help you to do that. I'm called to help in whatever situation, and I think that's kind of the best way to be submissive is to make sure that we're in the right role
Mm-hmm.
instead of me trying to take over. Then we'd just be crashing anyway. So
Well, and then I think in my responsibility, I need to offer,
mm-hmm.
create, be something worthy to submit unto.
Yeah.
You know, because like that's where difficulties come into. Like
Yeah.
if I'm the head of the household, you know, Christ very clearly states, you know, that the man is here, you know, and then you've got this bond of marriage, and then you've got the kids, and so if that is the hierarchy, if that's the role that we're going to accept and adopt as Christian believers,
Mm-hmm.
I've got to be living a life and presenting opportunity and providing enough that it's worthy for submission.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like if I'm not doing that, then yeah, rebellion's going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that's what you're asking for.
Right.
You know, these guys that don't want to work, and you know, that's the
Mhm.
trend now, is that men stay home and women go to work. Like maybe in some cases, but in a
Yeah.
lot of cases, like be a man,
Yeah.
get up and work. You know, I would much rather you be at home with the kids,
Yeah.
not because I don't like the children, but I know how much better attention they're going to get from you.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to do the next thing and not always present, but you are going to take the time. You're going to make sure that they're
Right.
understanding. You're going to take time to explain things to them in a way that moms can.
Yeah, and you say that, but you always, like, even though you are busy with so many projects, you always make time for our kids.
Well, I do try to put down the phone. Like if I'm just in a leisure moment and Dad, hey, I do try to just take
Yeah.
that. I'm like, okay, I'm done with that for 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
Because typically the attention span. Dad, will you play with me? Sure. We go up there.
Yeah.
I take the little figure, I play a little bit, and then they get in their own world, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. You know, it's like they don't want you for 7 hours.
Right. Yeah.
Unless it's hide and seek, then that is a 7-hour ordeal.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, that, you know, the opportunity in which we have, you know, I was alluding to this a couple Wednesday nights ago, like the position that you and I are in is now called a privileged position. It's a white privileged position. So I'm really trying to get us canceled with this podcast,
You're
by the
doing
way.
a
I
great
keep
job at it.
bringing this stuff up. But because you're now at home,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't call you a stay-at-home wife, you know, you you have the opportunity.
Yeah.
Because do we need the money? Maybe.
Yeah.
But do I want the money? Yes. Do we need it? No. Let me say it that way.
Yeah, that's a good way
Okay.
to put it.
You know, yes, we could do another vacation or whatever, but
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to me. We'll figure it out as the Lord provides, because the Lord's always done that. But that's now a privileged position by this world standard. I think it's a godly position.
Absolutely.
I personally do, because we've taken the last decade and created our finances in such a manner that we don't need the excess. You know, I don't have to make $150,000 a year for us to live a pretty decent lifestyle. You know, we're not anywhere close to that. And
Yeah.
we got to eat today.
We did.
We both have brand new vehicles. You know, mine is squeaky and makes some chappy noises,
yeah,
but
a little windy.
we'll get it fixed. But you know, it's just like I don't have to adopt the principles of the world. I don't need to look like the rappers, and I don't need all that lifestyle.
Right.
You know, whether I'm abound or abased, I've learned to be content in Christ. And when Christ is in your marriage, I'm content with that. You know, and I love that our journey. If we're at home, we're cool. If we're at the beach, we're cool. If we're at church, we're cool.
Yeah.
You know, like we've just learned that life is going to present itself sometimes. But if our body, if our spirit, if our marriage, if our children, if our lifestyles aren't ready for that, then we're going to be unhappy. We're creating this false sense and this false identity. Again, going kind of back to what we were talking about in the very beginning of like my completeness is going to be done through what I do, not who I am. But who I am is a Christian.
Right.
And what I am is Christian. And who you are is a Christian. And what you are is Christian. And because of that common denominator and that common desire to come together, we're not unequally yoked.
Right.
You know, because even in the church, like you do children's, you have sang, you clean, there's so many things that have to happen here
Right.
that it would burn out most people, but because the foundation was built on Christ and the foundation is Christ, it's like,
Yeah.
this is the rock on which I stand, and we
Mhm.
don't get tired,
Yeah.
And I think that in my experience anyway, I think that's kind of rare, because we know a lot of pastors, we know people
Yeah.
behind the scenes, and like, they get a little upset and burn out and frustrated even in their marriages because like maybe it didn't start off that way, and maybe it's not going the way that they thought it would,
Right.
but ours has always been a foundation of Jesus first.
Well, I think it's also a lot to our upbringing,
Yeah.
We grew up in church. We know how church kind of works. And so I think it is going to be a little more difficult for those that didn't grow up knowing how church kind of goes and gets a little political and little, however that is. But, it's going to take them more time to understand how much you have to give and how much you have to put into it, and understanding that sometimes it's not both of you doing all of it at the same time. As much as I would love to be in here and just be the pastor's wife, there's still things that need to be done. And if
those
I'm able
kids
to
are not
do
going to
this-
watch themselves.
They're not. They'll watch each other jump off the table. But
I watched Hulk Hogan do this move. Check this out.
yeah, exactly. So, but it just comes with time and comes with that learning through all the situations that pop up in ministry. There's always a new one, it seems like.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, there's never a shortage of issues to solve.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, with our temperament blends, issues don't bother you, or at least on the surface.
yeah, I was gonna say they do.
With me, it bothers me instantly, and I want to figure it out instantly.
Yeah.
Where you'll think about things and solve it with poetic justice. Whereas, like, I'm a raging bull, and if I break a couple of, glasses along the way, then so be it. But we got it fixed in the end.
Right.
But, little Johnny over there's got a broken leg now. Sorry, but the other issue was fixed, But
It's
now
okay, we have a boot for that.
right. What are you talking about? So, well, cool. I think it's about time. We have got a baby at home, and I know that you probably miss him dearly, and I'm sure Grandma would love the assistance to make sure that, he's going through a phase, but Christian marriage in general, we need to be the epitome of healthy relationships and that light that shines on the hill. We don't need to hide the good things that God's doing in our marriages. And I just, I'm glad God brought you to me, because I definitely needed him to do that, because you look at our life now, I would not be in ministry if I didn't have you specifically.
Well, if I didn't have you, growing up, Brian and I both were like, we're not going to marry pastors. We're not going to do. Here we are, but I can't imagine it being anybody but you, it's just been such a easy transition to go from, living in somebody else's basement to living in my sister's house to living with my best friend, so it's amazing just watching how God just puts things in your life and you think, oh, that's not for me. And it's exactly what you need in your life. It's just awesome watching how he tweaks all those little things.
Right. Did we just become best friends?
Yeah.
You want to go do karate in the garage?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we don't have a garage, so we'll have to.
That's our bedroom.
Yeah, we went from the attic to a garage. Yeah, we live in a garage now, so it's a cool garage.
It's a cool garage.
It's got carpet. People are probably like, who are these poor folks? These hicks from Tennessee need to figure out how to build a house. I don't know. Basically, we've given our home to our parents.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's all right. Poppy does the dishes. He can stay as long as he wants.
There you go.
All right. Guys, TWC Afterthoughts, thank you so much for tuning in, paying attention. Hope you got something out of this today. Marriages should be fun. They should be I'll dare say relaxing. It should be an enjoyable experience. And, you should marry your best friend because, you got to go home to him every night. What was that guy's name? Oh, man, I can't remember his name, but it's a joke. And they were talking about like beating your wife. I know this is taking a left-hand turn, but he's like, he goes, I don't know why you would beat your wife. He's like, it's kind of like keying your own car. It's like, duh. You got to go back to it, right?
Yeah.
The marriage it's a lifetime commitment. And, I'm glad that our lives got to be committed to one another. And,
Absolutely.
We pray for your marriages. If you're in need, if you're struggling, if you're in the Knoxville area, I'd love to talk to you about your marriage and help you out best I can with the knowledge that Christ has given us. But I'm a firm believer Jesus is the one that keeps us together. It's the threefold strand that is not easily broken, and that's the Bible for you. So, guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe, give us a nice review, a 5-star, whatever. We're on so many platforms now. I don't even think subscribes. Is that subscribes?
That's what Joby says.
We need some subscribes. Yeah. So, anyway, God bless you guys. Thank you so much for paying attention to us. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.